Welcome back to Paranormal Patio. If you're just stumbling across this episode, don't forget you can find all of our episodes at our website, paranormalpatio.com, and on most podcast streaming platforms, except for Apple. It's a personal decision. And yet, I still do not get tired of saying that. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Paranormal Encounters TV, and it's a great interview. I had a lot of fun with these guys, and I look forward to hearing your feedback from the episode. But before we get into that, my friend Lonnie Scott, former guest of the show, is here. I just wanted to give him a little shout out and a little highlight to his show. Lonnie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here, Jason.
Yeah, just give everybody a quick little refresher on what your show is, what it's about.
Yeah, you can find my show at the main site is weirdwebradio.com. Patreon members get a little extra extended interview of all the guests at patreon.com/weirdwebradio. Or you can go to weirdwebradio.com and click join the membership. It features long form kind of interviews, really getting into the practices and the thoughts and ideas behind, successful, relevant, some well-known, some not so well-known, pagan, occult, druid, sorceress, tarot professional, paranormal investigating thinkers out there. I try to cover a wide range of that and talk to people about what it is, what it is that makes them tick and what makes them continue their current practices. Along with my favorite thing, have they ever experienced a haunting? And that's always usually leads to a pretty fun story as well. So like I said, you can go to weirdwebradio.com or find us anywhere on your favorite streaming platform.
See, it's perfect timing. This episode's about ghost hunting, so you had to throw that in there. It's awesome.
As always, I think that's one thing I know I've been told by many of my guests that sets my show apart is not only am I getting deep into like the why of what they do, but also covering things like paranormal topics and hauntings with occult practitioners and practicing witches, sorcerers, druids, and so on. They're not usually asked those kinds of questions. So it's always fun to see what it is they've experienced, and not only that, but what they might do to deal with it.
One of my favorite parts of your show is when you ask those questions and they go, "Oh."
It is fun.
Catch them off guard. It's perfect.
It does. They don't get to tell those kinds of stories. I think often, I know I'm probably guilty of it myself, is we could start to be a victim of our own growing success and paint ourselves into a corner. And you start to get afraid to say certain things or ask certain things. And I want to remain true to the spirit of why I started the show to begin with. I want to talk to awesome people, find out what they think, and really ask them things that they may not have ever been asked before, especially on a platform like a podcast.
Yeah, it's terrific. I love your show. I always promote your show whenever I get the chance to tell people that ask me about podcasts, hey, check out Weird Web Radio. And I will continue to do so in the future because I do enjoy your show. Everybody out there needs to sign up for the Patreon. And if you don't sign up for the Patreon, at least give them a listen because Weird Web Radio is terrific. I love it.
Hey, I'll take that. And in case people didn't know, you go buy official Weird Web Radio swag. Jason's the guy that helped make that possible. Hey, you deserve a little respect and love in that too, my friend.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's a work of love. So, go check out Weird Web Radio. And either before or after you do that, stick around for this episode because, like I said, we're going to be talking ghosts and hauntings. Ooh.
You're listening to the Paranormal Patio Podcast. Pull up a chair.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Patio. As always, I'm Jason. Tonight I am joined by Paranormal Encounters. This will be Connor in India, and I gotta tell you, I found their YouTube channel randomly, probably a few months ago, I think, and we finally have been able to sit down and have a little chat about what they're up to, about some paranormal stuff, which is always welcome right here in the Paranormal Patio. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
We're good. How are you?
I'm great, actually. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I have been for a while. I apologize for having you on the back burner for so long.
No, that's fine. We appreciate you having us on.
Have you guys done a lot of podcasts promoting your show in the past?
We've done a few podcasts, actually. Yeah, we did one for Scarefest, I think, in December.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
So, for everybody who is totally unfamiliar with who you are and what you do, can you give everybody a rundown on what Paranormal Encounters, the channel, actually is?
Yeah, sure. Paranormal Encounters is basically a show that follows Indy and I at reportedly haunted locations throughout the United States. We go in there and we try to communicate with anything or see if it's actually haunted.
We don't really try to prove the paranormal. We just document what happens to us.
Yeah, mostly just our experiences.
Yeah.
That's a really good approach to, I think. Your experiences are oftentimes more valid than proving a theory, I guess.
Yeah, and we just like to show it like how it is. You know, like we have a few episodes where we don't capture actually anything, so it's just we try to just show people what it's actually like without all that crazy fluff.
Yeah, because if someone says that every time they go out they find something, either they're incredibly gifted or they're liars.
I can agree with you there.
Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, I mean, in America, we've been blessed with, for the last, decade or 2 decades of paranormal television being mainstream. I say blessed because it's, really opened up the paranormal field to a lot of people, which is great. But unfortunately, with that being said, the paranormal content on television is often very, straight on 3 acts. By the 3rd act, they've got all their reveals and they found all this incredible stuff, and it's every single time.
Right.
And it's really misleading to people that that's the way that it is, because it's not the way it is at all.
Right. Yeah, you don't go to a place and get something all the time. It just can't work that way.
So, let's talk about the show for a little bit. How did you guys get started?
I actually did this show I started this show in 2012. And it started because it was a documentary, and I went to a school, and I went with a couple other people who were like-minded as I, and we went there, and we actually experienced more than we even thought we were going to have happen to us. And then our cameraman actually stopped wanting to do it because of his experiences he had there. And then a month later, I decided we should probably make this into a series with the guy I was filming with before. Just because the experiences I had were just so much, so weird, I couldn't explain them. And I was kind of skeptical at that time. And it just continued from there. And throughout the years, I filmed a total of 7 episodes. And then I stopped.
Wait, really? 7 episodes?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, she didn't even know.
We've done twice that since I met you.
Yeah, she didn't even know we did 7 episodes. 7 episodes of the original series. After that, I took a little time off. I had some stuff going on in between, and then I met India, and India knew about my old show and some stuff I was already doing. And we decided to try to shoot a pilot for revamp the series back, just her and I. Because before it was just three people, myself and 2 other guys. We started the show, and now we're 14 episodes in, and then a year and a half later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to ask, what experiences did you have on that first foray that scared your cameraman off entirely?
Well, see, the cameraman I had, wasn't so much into the paranormal. He's heavily religious, for one. I don't think he thought anything was going to really happen. I think it was just more so the stories. I think you see some stuff on TV, and most people just think it's just fluff and not real. And I think he had tagged along just to help out. I actually hired him because at the time I didn't know anything really much about filmmaking, and he was into photography and filming and all that stuff, so he knew what he was doing, and he was just supposed to be behind the camera and filming it. But I got cussed at through the spirit box. We heard kids running. We were at a school filming, We heard kids running. I heard disembodied music actually happening or talking or whatever it was in the gymnasium. There was nothing plugged in, nothing going on. This school's been abandoned since 2001. We saw stuff there. Yeah, I guess he just felt very uncomfortable with continuing on. He just totally stopped. His brother was the one that was with me that was also there filming, and we continued to do 3 more episodes after that together. But
wow, it's a lot of stuff to happen. The first night, right?
The disembodied music or talking in the gymnasium was the one that set everything off, because I captured all that on audio too. So it's just like I was very different than what I am now, and my experiences I had then really helped change and shape how I believe things now. And that disembodied music, I still have no clue what it was. So it's one of the biggest things I experienced back then.
Very cool. Very cool. What made you decide to even do this documentary at the time?
Well, to be honest with you, I saw someone on YouTube who was doing YouTube videos at the time. He went there, and he mostly did, like little funny skit videos and stuff. And I saw him go there, and he captured supposedly a locker opening, and it was kind of hard to take it credible. And I always had an interest to want to go and document paranormal stuff. My family's always been involved in paranormal back all the way up to the 50s and 60s. And they'd always tell me ghost stories, and I was always inspired to one day hopefully be able to shoot a documentary. And that's when ghost television shows were really getting popular. And a mix of things really inspired me to go out there and go film it, but mostly it was just because I wanted to see if what he experienced was actually true. And that place was about 8 hours from where I had lived at originally. So it wasn't too far of a drive. I went there. I was there for about 3 or 4 days. It was just crazy, I guess. It just totally changed my beliefs.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, going back 50 years, your family has been into this stuff. Along what lines would you say that they were involved with the paranormal?
My family actually lived in 2 haunted houses. I got a little secret project going on right now. So some of it I'm talking about my secret project. But they lived in 2 haunted houses, and my aunt was a kid. My great aunt was a kid and lived in that house with my great grandparents. And they lived in this house in Goshen, Indiana. Basically, they'd always talk about this house they called it Middlebury Street. They always called it a house on Middlebury Street. And they talked about how numerous people that would come and stay at the house and live there for a few years, like family members and friends. They'd actually see things and experience things. Like my aunt would have footsteps one night come into her bedroom, and while everybody was downstairs watching television, she'd leave the light. She'd have her parents leave the light on in the in the hallway. And she heard footsteps on the wooden floors come into the room, and she could hear them come around the bed, all the way around her bed. And she looked in the direction of the footsteps when they stopped, and nothing was there. And then she could feel a hand brush the side of her face. And it absolutely terrified her as a kid, and she had a lot of experiences. One of the family members that were there, too, saw actual objects levitate off of a dresser in the exact same position and landed on top of the bed, exactly how they were on a dresser. And those are the type of stories that are really hard to believe, but my family isn't the type that would just make something up like that. And back then, my great-grandpa would always say it was a mouse, and those kind of things. They just brush it off, but I think deep down he knew something weird was going on in the house that they lived in, because they also were all downstairs one time, and upstairs, they'd all be sitting downstairs in the living room watching television. Upstairs, they heard water rushing pretty loud, and they didn't know what was going on. It was so loud, it made my great-grandpa get up out of his chair, run upstairs, and see the bathroom faucet full blast. My great-grandma used to joke and say it was the previous owner who used to live in the house, and they'd always call him Homer. So it's just something that my parents or my great-grandparents would always experience weird things. And then all the way up to the 90s before they passed, my great-grandma experienced my great-grandpa visiting him when he passed away and heard a noise down at his woodworking shop. So there's been a lot of things that my family's had experiences about. Those are just some of them that they've told me. That's
really cool because you don't hear a lot of that personal side. A lot of these people that are into ghost hunting and stuff, maybe they had an uncle or something that the family thought was crazy that, believed in the stuff. It's really refreshing to, have a story like that. I love that.
Yeah, and it's really inspiring too for me as well, because this is well before paranormal television, and Ed and Lorraine Warren and all those people like that being mainstream popular, because these are just people back in the 60s and 50s and 60s who this stuff. I love those type of stories just because they're vintage and they're really classic, and they're more genuine than if someone were to tell them more nowadays. Those people back then probably weren't looking for that type of fame or anything like that, because it was so unfamiliar, and not a lot of people talked about that type of stuff.
Right, yeah, because, total fear of being laughed out of, every public event that they might possibly be in.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a different time, and that goes back to kind of, we're blessed that right now it's becoming much less of a taboo thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more people are more involved in it, Like, because of the ghost television shows that came out in 13, 14, 15, people are feeling like they can actually share their experiences without feeling embarrassed or being fun of or being called like a freak or something,
Right. And that still exists. There's definitely still the old guard, so to speak. That will put you down for believing in these type of things. But I feel the tables are turning. The scale is starting to come to balance, and there's a lot more of us weirdos, that are.
Yeah. I'd rather be a weirdo than normal anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And, we just team up and we share all these experiences, and it's great. I absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have this might be a difficult question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. So let's go back to, your formative years. You have all these stories growing up, from experiences with your family. What was your perception of, the whole ghost phenomenon at the time?
I believed in it, but I was always wanting to experience something like that. I was skeptical. I even have skepticism now. I have healthy skepticism. You going into places now, and I still did even back then, even though before I even experienced anything. The last decade was when I really experienced a lot of stuff that really changed my mindset now, but as far as going at it back then as a kid, I still had an open mind about it. I didn't disbelieve it. I knew it was there. I just, I think it's because of my family, honestly, just because their stories were genuine. Like the story I just told you just a second ago was literally something I just found out a few weeks ago from our project I'm working on. So it's just, having a hard time, I guess, answering the question, unless really I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying.
It's all right. It was actually a two-part question. Because the first part, I wanted to know what you thought about it before you had experiences. And now I'd like to know how you feel about it after all these experiences. How has your point of view changed?
It's, I'm still trying to figure it out, honestly. I'm trying to figure out what I've experienced. Because I have been lucky enough to actually see a ghost, honestly. And I've actually captured what I believe is a ghost on camera. And I'm still trying to figure out how to process the process of it, I guess. I'm trying to understand how it works and how to understand everything I'm seeing and hearing and experiencing. Because Indy and I were at a place not long ago, and we actually caught what sounded like a girl screaming for at least a minute. And it's hard to try to understand, I guess. The more I try to understand it, the more I just can't comprehend it. That's
good. You should always be changing your experience and your point of view, I think. So
it's just I try to stray away from the mainstream belief, I guess. I try to question it, because I feel like if I follow the mainstream belief, the thinking that maybe somebody passed away and tragically and they're in this house, I try to think differently than that. I try to think of other ways of what this could be actually, versus someone who died tragically, or they have to die tragically, or they're stuck in this house, haunting this house. Because if the house isn't there anymore, where do they go? And how long are they there for? Or they're not standing in the room staring and waiting for somebody to come in the room. So it's just, I'm trying to think of ways of how to understand and how it works.
I don't have the answer. I don't know either, I don't think anyone ever will. It's been brought up before on the show that if we ever do figure it out, that the fun is going to be gone from it. I love the mystery and the constant searching for the answer. It's about the journey, not so much the destination. We've talked a little bit about, the influence of the paranormal television. And so much of it nowadays is everything is a demon and everything is evil. What are your thoughts on that?
Everything is a demon, and everything is evil.
India's got a good point of view, because we are both agreeable on what she's going to tell you. It's just because we get this literally all the dang time about what we're communicating with demons or this. It just gets so old. I'm getting sick and tired.
Yeah, we get a lot of comments where people will say stuff like, well, you need to be careful because what you're communicating with is actually a demon that's pretending to be a child. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? Like, what is making you say that? I think everybody, the reason that, I actually just wrote about this, but the reason that people are talking about demons so much is it brings in views. Like, it does. If you use the word demon in your title in your YouTube video, you're going to pull in way more views than you usually would. People just, I don't know, they love it. They love the idea of an evil entity. But at the end of the day, it's not very, we have yet to run into an evil entity, so. Yeah,
and I mean, we've been to 14 places, about to be 15 soon, and we have never ran into anything that's negative. Of course we're going to get scared at some certain...
Well, we've run into a couple of negative experiences.
But not demons.
But yeah, not to the level of like a demon, yeah, no.
Not demons, like, it's just... I think it's a dumb thing to go about saying everything's demon, because it's so popular in television, because it adds that instant fear for people to watch. Like, you're going to see these people go in this place that demonic activity or is dark and evil and everything else. And it makes a great story for people, because people like to have that, because they feel like the people that they're watching, the characters, are going to be in danger, and they're going to be in immediate danger, and they may not make it out, kind of thing. But in all reality, it's just for show, like India was saying. It's not really common like it's supposed to be out there. I've never, even before India, I've been to places I've never filmed. I've never experienced anything negative like that. Of course, if you're a mean person, of course you're going to have mean energy with you anyway. And it's just how it is. And it's just, you can't get nice stuff all the time. We've always communicated mostly with nice spirits or entities, whatever you want to call them. So it's just, my perception of that is that it's overly done, and it's not as common as what people make it out to be.
That is refreshing to hear. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So I'm not alone I assume I'm not alone in noticing India's accent. India, would you care to elaborate on where you're from?
I am from the town of the city of Stoke-on-Trent in England, which nobody has usually heard of in America, but it's sort of in the middle. That's the best way to describe it.
So in other words, she's British.
So we got a little bit of background on Connor. So India, what's your background with paranormal?
I have been interested in the paranormal since I was really little. My mum used to tell me this experience that she had when she was about 12, where she went to a castle in the UK. It was a really hot summer. Can't remember what year it was, 1970 something, 1970. I don't know, they had a heat wave anyway, it was really hot that summer. And she went to this castle, and she went up one of the towers, and there was just like a round room at the top. And she had like looked around the room, and she was getting ready to go back down the stairs to go down the tower. And she was the last person in line to go down the stairs, and all of a sudden she felt like the hair on the back of her neck stand up, and she felt freezing cold. And she turned around and saw a woman in a white dress, or like white nightgown, floating slightly above the floor. Yeah, it scared her really bad, and so I've heard about that ever since I was little, and that's kind of what made me interested in the paranormal.
How do you get from there to where you are now?
Well, I kind of, after that, I would like watch all the shows, of course, and I would be obsessed with those, and I used to read a bunch of ghost stories when I was in middle school, and then when I was 19, I went to St. Augustine, and I came across a store that was selling paranormal investigation equipment, and so I bought a K2 meter, and I bought a spirit box, and then I started doing little investigations, and then I was on a couple of teams for a little bit, and then I met Connor, and now we do it all the time.
That's awesome. So, this feared and terrifying field has made two people find each other, and
Yep. Two
ghosts
together.
Yeah, they just bring everybody together. It's beautiful. All right, let's talk about some of your investigation.
We have a few that are our favorites. Like, we have our haunted house series that we've done. We have St. Albans. We have Whispers Estate. The first one that India and I ever did was the Octagon Mansion, and that was in Wytheville, Virginia. And I kid you not, that investigation lasted a total of 2.5 hours that entire night. That was it of the entire time we were in there, because we had so much stuff ramp up and happen at one time. It just sort of died down afterwards. But what had happened in the very beginning was just something that totally threw us off by surprise. This is our first time we ever revamped the show. We were there with the now owner, John, and they claimed that they communicated with a little girl there when he was there with the former owners. And they were using the REM pod. And John likes to put on these dinners called Dinner with a Ghost. That's his thing that he does. He basically sit down and have a dinner with a ghost. Just point blank, simple. And in that same room is the room that they communicate with what they believe was a little girl. They were using it through the REM pod, and they were asking questions, and I guess it was responding through the REM pod. India and I was trying to replicate this same tactic of communication. This was our first time we did an investigation together, really, you know. So we used the REM pod in there. We actually had the REM pod mimic, sort of like Morse code in a way, but India asked it how old this age is, and the little girl, and it literally did one beep on the REM pod and communicated. Well, right after that, not long after that, we started smelling something suspicious inside the building, and we thought at the time that somebody was squatting inside the building and doing some illegal activities in there. So we had left, and we called the bodyguard for the Octagon Mansion that John had hired at the time, and he came. And while we were in there, we were walking towards that same exact room where the REM pod was. And I kid you not, John and I were walking into the doorway, and I think, where were you at? You were by
I was going to pick up the REM pod.
India was going to pick up the REM pod in that room, and I was walking with John towards that way, and the bodyguard was at the door, the front door, which he could see at a distance, and he had just got there, and he was on the phone. And as John and I were walking in the doorway, we heard this loud clap, and it was what turned out to be was a rock. It actually got thrown above John and I's head and hit the floor. And it threw us by surprise. We turned around, freaked out, of course, and on the entire time, we thought somebody was inside this building messing with us. We turned around, looked at the bodyguard. He was on the phone, and he walked in the room because he heard the noise. He was sort of walking in and out of the door on the phone. India picked it up off the floor and found it was a rock. Well, we were trying to figure out how it even happened. It was pretty dark in there. We're using night vision. While this is going on, we're still thinking somebody's in the building. And John and I walked towards this other doorway that leads to the other half of the Octagon Mansion, because I heard a woman talking. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody's literally in this building right now. We're going to have to call the cops. And John and I were like, come out. We won't call the cops, because we thought we heard somebody, right? Well, right after that, I said that, there's a stairwell right in front of us. You could hear somebody creak on the stairs. It really freaked me out. I thought somebody was coming down the stairs. I thought somebody was really in this building. India and everybody was all tripping out on this. We start walking towards the stairs, and of course, I'm using night vision. I peek up the stairs, and no one's on the staircase. So we actually end up gathering ourselves, and we decided, we went through the whole building. All the doors were locked. No one's in the building. We secured the entire building. We locked the front door. We continue on for our investigation. We go upstairs this time, where that crack happened on the staircase. This time, the bodyguard's girlfriend was here, and India and her went into the opposite side of the upstairs floor. John, myself, and the bodyguard were standing by the staircase. And seconds later, we're talking about something, and you hear another clash of a noise. And something went down the stairs this time. Well, we're not near the balcony to knock anything off. I go down the stairs and found out there was like a nut. A nut.
So don't get that wrong.
Yeah, I always get told off about this. I said it was a bolt. There's a nut at the bottom of the stairs. Something threw the nut off the stairs. Now, you can actually see when this was there. When India was doing her kickoff earlier on in the day up there, where she was talking and explaining about the building, you could actually see it on the staircase. When we went upstairs in the night vision, it wasn't there anymore. It was gone. So I don't know where it went. And on the video, you can see my hands. You can't see my hands. I'm filming with the camera. You can see John and the bodyguard's hands. No one has their hands on the balcony. No one has anything in their hands. And India and the bodyguard's girlfriend wasn't even nearby. So it was just some really crazy stuff. Right after that, the building started dying down. But the entire time we thought somebody was in the building when we had a bolt and a rock thrown. It was just crazy.
Yeah, it's the people that you worry about, right? Especially in some of these abandoned places or places that, no one's living in. Like, you never know. Somebody might be in there.
Yeah, that's
what we thought the second time, because the second time we went, we didn't make an episode. We just left a camera running in there because we weren't really getting anything. So we just decided to leave a camera running and go off and come back the next day. And we caught some stuff that just made me we caught something that sounds like somebody coming up to the camera and stomping right next to it. And I was convinced somebody had to have been in there, but we were trying to recreate how you could sneak in there and have us not know, and we can't figure it out.
You could actually hear somebody took their hand and smacked the wall. It was so loud. It
sounded like a light switch being turned on.
Absolutely freaky.
Like an old organ being played. It sounded like an old doorbell. Mm-hmm. Really weird stuff.
The REM pod was killed within a few seconds too. It was really strange. We were filming the REM pod in the same area we had when we first communicated with what we thought was a little girl at the time. The REM pod was killed too, and it was just... It's a pretty freaky place for us the first time ever go to, and then go back and then have some more experiences happen.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty crazy place.
Yeah, so that was our craziest kickoff of starting this series. It's one of the moments I'm actually working on right now, talking about, the rock and the bolt. We can't even explain it, honestly. We don't even know how that even happened. We actually ended up finding a pile of rocks inside the building from where the roof had caved in, and found where the rock could have came from, because all the other rooms had nowhere any source of any rock. We found one that was similar to it and took a picture next to it. It's pretty fascinating, the experience.
I don't want to call you out, but you said bolt again.
I know, nut.
The amount of comments we get of angry people saying, that's a nut, not a bolt.
Yes.
We gotta start calling it a nut and not a bolt.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to call it. This thing on the floor. Oh man.
So what a way to start off, with the two of you teaming up and filming content. That's pretty lucky, I suppose.
Well, the next place we went to was a family's home, and then India always jokes with me, calling me a ghost magnet, because the places that we'd go to just gotten crazier. Like the house we went to after that, we went to a family's home in South Carolina that was experiencing some really strange paranormal activity, and that is where we actually had two of our most well-known, liked pieces of equipment that we use on the show take place, and I guess sort of was born from, I guess.
What? What do you mean?
The portal and then the Estes method we use.
Oh. Well, yeah. The Haunted House series is the series that I think really took off our channel. It's what everybody always talks about. And
it's a mystery of a house, too.
Yeah, we don't know any of the history. The history seems to have just been erased. We can't find anything on it. It's really strange. You can find stuff on it up to the 80s, and then anything before that, there isn't anything.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mystery as to why there's such weird stuff going on there, but there is some really weird stuff that goes on in that house.
So all of this takes place in a single house?
Yes, in a single house. After the Octagon Mansion that we had filmed at, we were looking into doing it more as a series and continue doing more and more episodes, and India got reached out to on. She put out. I think you put out posts, right?
I put out a thing on the Facebook ad group saying, this might sound a bit weird, but if anybody has any haunted locations and wants to be on camera, can you let me know? And I only got one message, and it was from the owner, Jessica, of the house, and she said, I don't know if I've got what you're looking for, but we have some weird stuff going on at our house. If you want to come check it out, you can. And so we went, and it just ended up being very strange, and it's a beautiful house, but there's weird things that go on there. And the thing that everybody talks about is that night we turned all the lights off. We left the house. All the animals had been taken out of the house. The owners went away for the night, and we left the camera rolling. in a bedroom where there's a bed that it's an antique bed, and you can see burn marks on it because I think
a man fell asleep smoking and caught the whole entire bed frame on fire.
Yeah, not the bedroom, just the bed.
The bed frame on fire.
Well, yeah. It's not original to the house, but we left the camera rolling in there, and I was watching it, and, I got a couple of hours into it, and there really wasn't much going on, and then all of a sudden you can hear all these noises, like somebody rummaging in a drawer, somebody opening and closing a door, just somebody, like, really making a lot of noise, and I texted Jessica, and I said, I think you might have a mouse or something. So she brought in exterminators. They didn't find any evidence of anything. It was really, really weird.
Props to you for reaching out to the exterminators,
Yeah, I was like, this has to be a mouse because it's not every day that, drawers start rummaging through themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it lends to your credibility, though, because, again, you're not just going in and saying, well, there's this drawer that's, rattling around, that definitely a demon in there.
Yeah.
Take the logical approach first, and then if you can rule that out, then maybe you've got something interesting going on.
Yeah, we wanted to explore all the avenues of what it could be before we ever concluded it was actually paranormal. So when we found out that there was actually no rat droppings or any kind of pest in the house, it just was unexplainable, and it made them more freaked out because they say that they leave noise on purpose before they go to sleep because they hear things in the house. So, I mean, that would freak me out alone. I mean, I have to sleep with some noise, but holy cow, that would scare me. If you have no noise on and you hear stuff just going on in your home and there's no one in the home, I mean, it'd be hard to sleep at night like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you're going to say.
We went to Randolph.
Yeah.
We went to Randolph Infirmary.
Oh my God.
And we were filming a walkthrough interview, and we were in the basement, and there's a kitchen in the basement.
Speaking of kitchens.
Yeah, and the historian, Ted, was telling us about this lady who she lived there for like almost all her life, and she was the cook there, and she spent so much time in the kitchen, and he was telling us about an experience somebody had, and all of a sudden, from down the hallway, this is a building that's in the middle of nowhere, from down the hallway you hear like what sounds like a woman being like, ah! It's really weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so loud.
Yeah, I'd never had that happen like that before, and it's not comforting when you're in the basement. It's the creepiest place, around.
No, absolutely not comfortable at all.
So speaking of kitchens, I mean, ghosts like to go to kitchens.
Kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. You spend a lot of time in your house in your kitchen.
True.
And a lot of people eat in their kitchens, like if maybe the kitchen dining room combo situation.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're sitting there, you're, eating, having a conversation with your family, yada, yada. I mean, you have memories of kitchens. You spend a significant amount of your time there, and there's a lot of emotional involvement a lot of times. You had a bad day, you're talking to your spouse or your kids. Mm-hmm. That lingers, I think.
I think kitchens are the heart of every house, because if you, I don't know how often you have house parties, but my mom, she always likes to, before the pandemic, she liked to throw a lot of parties, and I noticed that everybody always gathers in the kitchen. Everybody is always in the kitchen, and I think it's just, it's something about a kitchen that is comforting. I don't know. I know I would haunt a kitchen there.
Food.
I would definitely haunt my kitchen.
I wonder if it's some sort of callback to, some sort of inherited memory of, the safe place or the place that you want to be is, close to the food and the water,
Yeah.
You picture people, living out in the woods back in caveman times or whatever. They're going to want to be near the water and near the food, right?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, yeah.
And also, there's a lot of speculation and theory about running water and the energy of running water, and every kitchen has running water.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just thinking that. There was one place I went to before I met Connor. I investigated the Dickens Opera House in Colorado, and the only place we got any sort of activity was in the women's restroom, which is weird, but we thought maybe it's because of the running water and it was helping whatever was there.
You blame the water for that one, but as a male, who has spent significant time with females, I know that you congregate in those, come on, a public restroom. Can't blame that one on the energy of the water.
In the restroom.
Yeah, makeup all the
Yeah.
time in there.
Yeah, gotta talk about your dates.
10 minutes turns to an hour.
I have to go powder my nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes is a lie. It's never 5 minutes.
Yeah. You might as well say it's 8 o'clock and then you actually go at 9 because that way you're actually there on time.
You gotta spend all that time in the bathroom chatting. That's fine. We don't mind that much. So let's talk about some more of your investigations. You guys have me all pumped up now.
St. Albans is like everybody's favorite, I think.
St. Albans.
Which is not my favorite.
It's not her favorite because I know your favorite is. You want to talk about that place?
Well, we were talking about that after.
Okay, so St. Albans is technically, it was our 4th episode we did. And this place everybody talks to because this place affected India heavily.
It's the scariest place I've ever been. That's why I say it's not my favorite. Like, I really enjoyed it from a ghost hunting point of view, but from a human point of view, it was terrifying.
And if you ever want to like work out or get some cardio, you got to go to this place. You got so many stairs, you got so many steps. I'm telling you, your Fitbit will go off the charts if you go to this place. It'll work out for you.
If I did that, there's a good chance I would be a ghost by then.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So St. Albans is a sanatorium in Radford, Virginia, and this was our second hospital style place we've ever been to. We went to one before that. We went to this place because it was close and it looks pretty spooky online. When we went there, we met the people, and they started talking about this place where I think the doctor and his family will live actually in this building as well with some of the patients or whatnot. And they did electroshock therapy there, and they had a bowling alley in the building. And it was just a really unique place. And then there's this main story about this woman named Rebecca. Rebecca, they say, was a patient. Somehow she got pregnant. And she miscarried her baby, and she had her baby, fetus or... She had a stillbirth. A stillbirth.
But the staff did not know that she had the baby, and she kept it in a jar hidden from the staff.
In the closet.
Yeah, and when
That's so dark.
Yeah. When they found it, they took it from it, and she took her life in a bathroom that's attached to her room that's known as the suicide bathroom because something like 4 or 5 people have committed suicide in there.
Which is where India had her experience outside of that room and Rebecca's room. We're doing the Estes method because we had absolutely amazing results with it at the Haunted House series. When we went back there for the second time and had some crazy stuff happen, and we decided to use it again at the St. Albans to try to communicate with Rebecca. And I'm in the opposite room outside of where India is. She's sitting down listening to the spirit box, and if you're familiar with the Estes method, you have someone who asks the questions and someone who receives them and answers anything that they hear through the spirit box with noise-canceling headphones so you can't hear the person asking the questions. I'm asking questions, and I'm actually hearing really weird things going on in this room, like I'm hearing walking and stuff like that. And India a few times answers me absolutely directly. It was really freaky.
You said,
I'm like,
where are you right now? And I immediately say, I'm right in front of you. And it's like I could not have done that again if I tried. And I'm whispering, so there's literally no way she could even hear me, right? And that freaked me out. And you can see that they have the people there that run the building have security cameras throughout the whole building. So this is probably the greatest moment they ever seen in their life in this building. And what I'm about to tell you. India's doing the whole thing, and a few minutes pass after that whole experience, and then out of nowhere, I kid you not, India screams bloody murder, and I literally dropped to the floor because I freaked out, and I'm sure they caught it on camera when they're watching me. And I go running into the room because I think something bad had happened to her. I'm like, what happened? What's going on? And then she said that she saw something. Get up out of the chair. It looked like out the corner of my eye there was a chair next to me, and it looked like somebody was sitting in the chair and all of a sudden got up, and I'd never noticed them before, and it just spooked me so bad.
And then, as I'm trying to ask her what's going on, she starts getting very weird, and I'm like, you can start seeing the emotions change on her face, and she starts getting emotional, and then she starts crying, and then I'm like, what's going on with you? Why are you crying? Because I've never seen her cry at a location. She doesn't cry. She goes to places I won't go into in places. I'm like, what's going on with you? And she just said, it's so sad. And I'm like, what's sad? And she's like, about her losing her baby. I'm like, India, this isn't like you. We need to get out of this room. And then she refused to leave the room because she said it's not bad. It was just a really weird experience because I saw something in India change. And then after we had left her at that place, India the next day just sat in the bath the next night and just cried at home and cried. And she was like this for a few days after we had left the place. So people think that she's more empathic and that she possibly was partially possessed by Rebecca. We have all these different speculations that people say about it, but India was fully, completely aware that she, right, is what you're saying to me?
Yeah.
And she was fully aware of what was going on. So some people think that she might have felt the pain that Rebecca had when she lost her baby in that room. It was one of the most emotional episodes that we have ever encountered. And it was the most weirdest, too, because I've never seen her act that way before.
Yeah, that's something. I want to get back to at least a couple more of your guys' experiences, but you've mentioned the Estes method twice now. I'm quite familiar with the Estes method. Mm-hmm. Plan on, this is a spoiler. Ooh, I have a project coming up for visiting and documenting a known UFO hotspot that's really close to me within an hour. And I plan on doing the Estes method there to see if I can make contact with not necessarily a ghost, although there's also a ghost story there, but see if I can make some sort of contact with just a broader the other, so to speak. Look out for that in the future. Have you gone outside of the ghost world and dug into different aspects of the phenomena, like UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot, that type of thing?
No, but aliens definitely exist. They definitely do. But I don't think they're here yet. But I definitely think they're out there.
I mean, I have never really explored UFO stuff like that. I thought I had experiences as a kid seeing some stuff like that, but I've always been interested. I totally do not shut that out, though. I know that there's got to be something. I mean, all these weird, unexplainable things in the sky.
That radio signal that is from outer space and they don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, all these recent UFO sightings that people keep seeing. I keep seeing the news. Literally, I think last week I saw 3 or 4 of them in a row every day in different cities, happening some weird stuff going on. I like to explore more of it eventually one day, honestly, but I've never really deeply explored UFO stuff, but I do have an interest in it. Yeah,
it's I'm kind of operating on the everything is a facet of the same thing type of mindset. I've talked about it a lot on the show. I think that cryptid sightings and UFO sightings and ghost interactions, I think it's all just a different way of presenting the same overall phenomena. And I hope I'm able to uncover some sort of, I don't know, proof, or I can't really prove anything, some sort of evidence that lends to that theory in the coming months when it warms up and I'm able to leave my home. And hopefully we can get past this social distancing thing soon too, because yeah, it's a bummer. Anyway, so we got off on a little tangent there, but I'd love to hear some more of your investigations, because I love hearing these stories. I absolutely love it. I live for this stuff.
That's the beauty of the paranormal, is ghost stories, and ghost stories is what inspires people to start up or be encouraged to go out and go do it. And that's what got us both into it. Is ghost stories. India can tell you about one of her most favorite places. She's been to. We've been there twice.
Yeah. And
every time we've been there, it's just been stinking crazy.
My favorite place that we've ever done is the Whispers Estate. Have you heard of the Whispers Estate?
I have not. Well, at least not enough to talk about it. I am aware that it is a place.
Yeah, I think that's the way for a lot of people. We didn't really know about it until we went. It's kind of a hidden gem. I think it might be about to become more well known because I've seen a lot of people that I know that are going there. But it's a very active house.
I think you should. It's very, very active house.
Yeah.
It's not just active, it's very, very active.
And it's very strange. And the first time we went, we got... Okay, just to give you a little backstory. So the main legend, and it is a legend because it's not documented, but the main legend surrounding this house is that there was a doctor that lived there. He had, which I think is documented, that the doctor lived there. His name was Dr. John, and he had a doctor's office within his house where he saw patients. The bit that's not documented is that he had an adopted daughter named Rachel, and on Christmas Eve, 1912, she snuck downstairs to go look under the Christmas tree that was in the parlor. And the Christmas tree was lit with candles, and the Christmas tree fell on top of her, and the room went up in flames, and she was severely burned. And she passed away a couple of days later in her bedroom upstairs. So we had our portal spirit box set up in the parlor, and we were trying to talk with whatever was there. It was right when we were starting the investigation.
It was the first thing, yeah.
And we got one of the clearest responses we've ever gotten on the portal. It said the name Rachel, very, very clear. So, of course, I got really excited about that. And then the really weird thing was we had two cameras rolling. We had one that was on a tripod, and Connor was holding the other one. We had finished up that scene, and we were getting ready to move upstairs, but we hadn't turned off the tripod camera. And Connor, all of a sudden, we're in the kitchen, and Connor said, "Did you hear something?" And I said, "No." And what he had heard was the camera turning itself off, and when he tried to get the footage, when he tried to turn it back on, it said data corrupted.
Yeah.
So something had destroyed the footage on the camera. We recovered it. Yeah, we recovered it.
Oh, I was so mad.
But it was like all messed up, so we couldn't use it. The audio was funny, and it was like flashing different colors, and it just was very weird.
So, like, there's power in that room. It's called the parlor room, and there's power in there. And I wanted to run, like, the batteries, you know, I don't rely on batteries. So I plugged it directly into the AC outlet for continuous power. The camera's recording, and then like India said, we're in the kitchen, and I hear, like movement, and then a clap noise, which was the camera shutting off. And I was like, what the heck was that? And then when I went to go get the camera, like we were going upstairs, it was just off. And I literally didn't understand why. When I opened it up, it said, no media found. It was just really strange because that was the entire second point of view of our camera.
And then after that, we heard what sounded like a girl screaming. We did some other stuff in between.
That was towards the end of the night.
Yeah, but the last thing. We heard a girl screaming, and it just went on and on and on. And we listened to every animal we could think of, and every animal that our commenters have suggested, and none of them sound the same.
Yeah, we were in this bathroom. This place used to have, I think they said, was it a bed and breakfast? Is what this place?
They used to rent the rooms out to different tenants. And
yeah, so in that bathroom, some guy actually slipped in that bathroom, fell and broke his neck on the floor and laid there for days until somebody actually found him. We were trying to go in there at first just to try to communicate with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, maybe no one's been in here. Let's try this out, see if we can communicate with him and see if there's anything he wants to. Hopefully we can relay a message to a family member if they're still around or whatnot. Not even 2 or 3 minutes in this bathroom. Thankfully, we had the voice recorder in there rolling this time. We had the voice recorder sitting next to us, and we're in there, and India's in the bathtub laying in it, and I'm filming her, and we're trying to communicate, just verbally trying to get EVPs. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, what the heck is that? And then India hears it too, and it's like, at first, it was a very subtle pitching noise of something, and then we realized it was actually someone screaming. And we're like, what the heck? And this was 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I think in
a tiny town.
In a tiny town, yes. And I'm looking at my watch, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, who would be screaming right now? And we're listening, and it keeps going on and on and on, and then it's eventually just stopped. I'm like, oh my God, did we just capture somebody screaming right now? And then it turns out that some of our viewers pointed out that it could have, because this is if you know the story about Rachel, she snuck down in the middle of the night to look, what they believed to look underneath the Christmas tree, and the Christmas tree fell on her, and she had burns. Back then, there was no actual lights people put in trees. It was candles. So she was pinned between a doorway, and there's actually burn marks in this building, in that doorway that that they showed us in the interview. And she could have been screaming. Somebody pointed out that could have been her residually screaming until somebody woke up and heard her and came down and got her out from being pinned from there. So we could have captured Rachel actually screaming in something. It did sound like a little girl for sure. So it was one of the freakiest things that we've captured so far on camera.
Yeah, and then the second time we went there, it wasn't as active, but we went. It wasn't that long ago, about a month ago. We had a light up cat ball that kind of accidentally kicked into one of the bedrooms, and there's supposed to be a little boy in there called Gary, and he likes to hide and play in this closet that they call Gary's closet. And Connor said, "Hey Gary, can you kick that ball back to me?" And right after he said that, it started lighting up. We've had a lot of weird stuff happen. We went in this new room called the Oculus room. They just built this entire closet they put in there that is full of mirrors. So it's very trippy when you walk in there. And the weirdest, not the weirdest. I don't know. It's the weirdest for me. It wasn't really a focal point of the episode, but before this investigation, I never believed that people could actually get attacked or scratched or anything like that. And I'm still kind of wary of it. I'm not entirely sure, but I didn't think it would ever happen. And we were sleeping in what used to be the doctor's office. We were in sleeping bags on the couches. I don't know what time it was because it was just the whole room, all the windows are blacked out so you can't see anything. It's pitch black. I was fast asleep, and then all of a sudden I was aware that my airway was cut off. So I come to really quick. I go from lying down to sitting bolt upright in about a second, and I'm lashing around in my sleeping bag trying to find a way out. I didn't know where I was just gasping. And then I came to and realized, I actually can breathe, but it felt like something had cut my airway off. So that was really strange. And then when I got home, it was the next night or the night after. It was 2 nights after I got home. My mum said that she had what she thought was a case of sleep paralysis, and my mum never gets sleep paralysis. But she said she thought she was asleep, but she was also aware of what was going on. She felt as if she was pinned to her bed and something was pulling up a blanket over her face. So she kind of came to and realized that she'd been dreaming. She went back to sleep, and it happened a second time. And then the reason that that's weird is because we were given a documentary on Whisper's estate that we had never seen before, that was made a few years ago. And after my mum had told us this, we watched it, and there's a woman in there that said that she fell asleep on the couch in Whisper's estate and felt somebody pulling a blanket up over her face as if she couldn't move. So that was really weird, and we thought that we might have brought something home with us that time, but
yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. It sounds like a really spooky place.
It's super spooky. You feel like it's the epitome of what a haunted house actually is. If you talk about haunted houses and you walk in there and you'll feel like, oh yeah, it's haunted. You go and come back for a second time, you'll just feel so used to it. You may not feel that feeling anymore. But every time you walk in this house, it just gives you that feeling it's freaking haunted. You feel it's haunted and walking there, whether you believe in it or not. And you just feel like something or someone is watching you inside that building. That's what the entire time I felt when we were there the first time.
There are definitely places like that. I've been in a few of them that just, it overwhelms you with, there's something going on in this building or in this house. I think we've got time for one more good story if you guys are up for it.
Yeah, sure.
No, but if somebody listens to this, they don't even have to watch our show. We've given it all the good stuff out.
Well, I'm sure you've got a lot more coming.
Yeah, we're filming one in a couple of weeks, but we're not allowed to say where. But I think that should be a good episode. And then we've got another good one coming the next month.
So, I mean, I'll just tell you about the haunted house. The second time we went back there, we went back to this house because of the camera stuff that happened. When we were there, we were trying to capture EVPs in this one particular kid's room, because they have kids, actually, and the kids have actually experienced weird things as well. Basically, the husband was absolutely freaked out about the whole camera thing. He said he watched it like 1,000 times trying to figure out what exactly that was. And when we were showing them what we thought was an EVP that we all thought we captured towards the middle of the episode, towards the end of it, we were all huddled around in the dining room, and we hear this loud clash happen in the kitchen. It's like glass, and it literally scared the living heck out of all of us, and especially the wife. Like, I think it really shook her up pretty bad. And we went in the kitchen, and the husband was trying to say, maybe, no, it's just forks, no, it's just this, trying to find rational explanations to it. But there was no dishes in the sink to fall or make noises like that. Well, after we left that place, and that was the night after we left the camera, that Sunday night, we filmed this episode on a Saturday, and that Sunday night, they had come home from church, and they had the same exact noise they heard in the kitchen that we heard that night when we were around the kitchen. So they asked us to come back for another episode. So we ended up coming back. And it turns out that this house is so mysterious. Like we said, there's no absolute history about this place. We tried finding it with the city, and there's nothing. It's just gone, like somebody erased it. It turns out they never told us last time that there's a well they actually covered up in this place. So when we were doing the Estes method at this place, we started communicating with something that sounded like somebody was buried in the well. And people were wanting us to stick up this well, but it's like 100 feet deep. And they filled up this well so the kids wouldn't fall into it. But this house has so much mystery to it because of the Estes method that we had done in that place. And that was the first time we ever did the Estes method. And we had direct responses that the homeowners were having with India. It was just really freaky. The house is just, it's a great place for paranormal experiences. And it's amazing because we use the paranormal evidence we've captured as trying to help ravel and put together the pieces of what this house was or what happened exactly at this house.
Water and kitchens, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we were in the kitchen. Actually, this was a deleted scene that we never showed in the first one. We actually shut the entire power off in the entire house. They claimed, like I told you, that they say that they could hear noises when there's no noise going on in the house. And their house is settled decently in the middle of the country. There's not really any houses nearby or anything like that. I mean, you can hear cars drive by every once in a while, but...
I mean, there are houses nearby, but
they're at a decent distance.
They're not right next door.
Yeah. So we're sitting there on the floor, and we all heard a whistle in this house. And we're like, what the heck? So we eventually go to the kitchen, and everybody, I don't think I really did, but everybody heard they have dogs in the backyard. Everybody heard talking outside, like somebody was outside.
It was a man talking.
But we went outside immediately, and there was no one out there. The dogs stopped barking.
The dogs were like, it sounded like the dogs were they were just barking and barking, and it sounded like a man was talking to them to try and get them to calm down. And there's nobody out there. It was really weird.
Mm-hmm. So the house is very mysterious, which is really fun. It makes it so much more fun, I think, when you don't know the history about a location, because if you're getting something that's super relevant, you're not privy to anything that you were told or anything like that, and you have these type of experiences, it just makes it so exciting to go there, and it just makes it feel like it's new every time because you don't know what you're going to expect. I mean, if you find something and you discover something like we did with the whole Estes method that led us to the go and back again, it just makes it so fun and so exciting. And it just, when you find something that's huge that happens there and like that, like the well, it just makes the house more mysterious. And I think that makes it more worth it to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. I love listening to all these stories. It's just terrific. Where can people find all these stories that you're talking about? We
have a few places that people can go and watch it. We're actually on, some of our episodes are actually on Tubi.tv. It's sort of like Netflix, but it doesn't charge anything, I guess. They can watch episodes on Tubi. They can go to youtube.com/paranormal encounters, or they can type in Paranormal Encounters on Amazon Prime Video and watch our episodes. We do have videos that are not on those platforms that are on our YouTube channel, so there is a lot more content on our actual YouTube channel if they want to check that out. And some episodes that we listed that we said 14, some of them are actually actually only on the YouTube channel, just exclusively for those people.
That is awesome. I love it. I'm going to watch more. Don't worry. I'm not just checking you out and putting you on the list and moving on. Like, I keep up with everybody that I've interviewed, and I'm looking forward to this top secret project that you're working on.
Thank you. Yeah, we both have one. I don't know when India's going to say hers or whatever, but the ghost stories, like I told you earlier, whatever, I've just been doing some research and some stuff like that. I'm working on a project I'll be releasing probably later on this year.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
Thank
Maybe
you.
we'll have to have you back on whenever you get close to release time. We can talk about it some more.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
All right. Well, you've been listening to Paranormal Patio. As always, I'm Jason. My guest tonight, Paranormal Encounters, Connor and India. It's been awesome. I love listening to these stories. Make sure you check out their content. Find them on YouTube. Find them on Tubi. Find them on Amazon. Especially YouTube, because that's apparently where all the hidden gems are, I'm told.
Yes, it is. We appreciate you so much for having us on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. I don't know what happened.
No, it's okay. We have them too. It's the given.
It just comes with the territory, I suppose.
Yes.
Until next time, keep the fire going.